Welcome to this Wisel Excel VBA tutorial. In this part of our series on writing SQL for Excel files, we're going to look at how to merge multiple worksheets side by side. We'll start with a quick reminder of how to join two worksheets together using a combination of inner and outer joins. Then we'll explain how to build a list of unique values from multiple worksheets using union queries. We'll use the results of that union query to populate a derived table subquery, and then explain how to join other worksheets to the results of that subquery. And we'll use all those techniques together to build up a merged list of multiple worksheets based on a common column. So lots to do in this one, let's get started. If you've been following this series so far, you'll be fairly familiar with the basic setup by now, so feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter of this video, you won't miss anything important. If you haven't seen previous parts of the series, here's a quick look at how things work. We have a macro-enabled workbook which allows us to run a query by clicking on this button, and when we do that it's going to extract some data from a separate Excel file called Movies. In this video, the Movies workbook contains multiple worksheets, each of which contains data from a single year's worth of films. We'll talk more about the structure of that in the next section of the video. I'll drop a link in the video description so that you can download both of the files involved here so that you can follow along and write the code with me if you'd like to. The code that's in the Merge Worksheets workbook relies on Microsoft ActiveX data objects, which isn't something I'm going to talk about in this video. We have a separate playlist which covers that, so if you're interested I'll drop a link to this playlist in the video description, and I'd recommend starting with this video, How do I get data from a closed Excel file using VBA? Just to demonstrate how the code works, from the Merge Worksheets workbook, if I click the Run Query button, it triggers a subroutine called Create SQL Query. And the only job of this subroutine is to construct the select statement that we're going to execute to select our data. That then gets passed into a separate subroutine called getQueryResults, and this is the one that deals with all the complicated stuff such as establishing the connection to the Movies workbook, generating the connection string, and then populating the record set using the results of our query. So that's the point at which our query gets used to set the source property of the record set object. All of the rest of the code just deals with writing that information out into a brand new worksheet. So just to demonstrate that in action, let's head back to the menu sheet in the Merge Worksheets workbook, click the Run Query button to extract some columns from the Genres 2010 worksheet in the Movies workbook. The aim for this video is to create a final set of results which consists of a single column of genre names and then multiple columns from each of the other yearly worksheets sitting side by side. We'll just stick with getting the total runtime and average runtime from each yearly worksheet. So just to demonstrate what that should look like as the end result, I've got a quick sample of that in the final result worksheet in the Movies workbook. So we'll see multiple columns from each of the yearly sheets. Now the trick to getting this to work is making sure that we return all of the genres, because not every single genre name appears on every single one of the yearly worksheets. So as you can see, as you can flick through these individual sheets, there are different numbers and different names of genres on each sheet. So we've already got the list of genres from the 2010 worksheet. Let's bring in the list of genres from 2011 as well. So one way to do that back in the Visual Basic editor is to join the Genres 2011 worksheet to the Genres 2010 sheet. So let's just add a bit of extra code to the end of our from clause. We'll concatenate a continuation character, and then on the next line let's start with an inner join. So you may know this from previous videos, but let's start with that anyway. So we'll go inner join, and we'll go with the Genres 2011 sheet. Just a bit of copy pasting here just to speed things up. And then of course we need to say which columns those two tables are joined on. So we can say on, and I'll go g10.genre, and then that's going to be equal to g11.genre. I can then close the double quotes, and then we can select those two columns from the g11 worksheet. So let's just again copy and paste those two lines, and then just update the sheet name to G11, and we'll change the alias of the columns to 2011 as well. So a fairly standard inner join. Let's just head back to the menu sheet, run that query, and see that we get a set of results containing columns from both 2010 and 2011. Now you may have noticed that although we've returned more columns, we've actually returned fewer rows compared to the previous version of the query. So in this combined set of results from 2010 and 2011, we are seeing only 11 different genres, whereas when we select from just the 2010 sheet, we actually see 13. The additional genres here are horror and western. Those two genres appear in the 2010 sheet, but not in the 2011 sheet. And because we're using an inner join, we're only going to return rows where there's a matching value in the joined fields. If you remember the descriptions we used in the previous videos which described how joins work, you can think of this as a set of overlapping circles. So with an inner join, the blue circle represents all of the rows in the 2010 worksheet, and the orange circle represents all of the rows in the 2011 sheet. When you use an inner join, you only get the rows where there's a matching value. So the horror and western genres appear in this outer portion of the 2010 sheet. If we wanted to include those extra genres, we could change our join type into a left join or a left outer join. So let's just quickly change that. If we switch back to the Visual Basic Editor, we can change the word inner to say either left join or left outer join if you prefer, although the outer keyword is optional in this case, so I'm not going to write it in. If we head back to the menu sheet and we run that query again, this time we'll see we get the 13 genres back again. So we get the horror and western genres, and you can see there that in 2011 those genres return no values. There are actually also two different genres in the 2011 sheet which aren't appearing in the 2010 sheet, so we're not actually displaying those genres, we're still excluding two rows of data. So 2010 has no drama or history genre. If we wanted to see the results from the 2011 sheet, which don't appear in the 2010 sheet, we could use a right outer join to get that to work. So we could get everything from the 2011 sheet by using a right join or a right outer join. Let's head back to the Visual Basic Editor and change the word left to the word right. And then if we head back to the menu sheet and run that query again, we'll see we get 13 rows or 13 genres again. This time we're not seeing anything for what would be the drama or the history genre, which exist in 2011 but not 2010. So ideally we'd like to see the full combination of everything from 2010 and from 2011. And ideally we'd have a way to do that using something called a full outer join or a full join. Sadly, the version of SQL we're using here doesn't support a full join. So you may remember from a previous video, one way to make this work is to have separate queries that return the left join, so return everything from the 2010 sheet, and then everything from the 2011 sheet with a separate query, a separate select statement altogether using a right join. And then simply union the results of those two queries together to get the complete set of results from both sheets. That works okay when you've got just two sheets to join together on the same column. But if we introduce a third worksheet, then things get a lot more complicated. Let's say we introduce the genres 2012 sheet. Now we'd have to return everything that's common to 2010, 11 and 12. Anything that's common to 2010 and 2011, anything that's common to 2010 and 2012, anything that's common to 2011 and 2012, and then anything which is unique to each of the individual sheets. So we're going to go for a much simpler approach in this particular video. We're going to create a separate list which contains every single genre name from all of the sheets we're eventually going to select from, and then simply join everything to that master list of genre names. Just to demonstrate the basics of what we're attempting to do here, let's have a look at combining the list of genres on the 2010 and 2011 sheet in a separate query. So we'll head back to the Visual Basic Editor, and then I'm just going to comment out the full SQL query statement that we've already written, and then replace that with a new one just below to construct just a list of genre names from the 2010 and 2011 sheets. So I'm going to say SQL query equals, and then just use a continuation character, and then we're going to say select just the genre field from, and then I'm going to go for the genres 2010 sheet. So let's just quickly copy and paste that to avoid too much repetition. And then I'm going to concatenate a new line character, and then copy and paste that entire line. And then just add the word union at the beginning of that line to put those two select statements together. So the results of those two queries will be placed together in a single continuous column. And then of course I'm going to select from the 2011 sheet here. And when you use the union keyword, it automatically removes any duplicates. So what we'll see when we head back to the menu sheet and we run this query is a continuous list of the 15 different genres that's comprised of the 11 genres common to both the 2010 and 2011 sheet, plus the 2 unique genres in the 2010 sheet and the 2 unique genres in the 2011 sheet. So now that we have this master list of genres, we can join both the 2010 and 2011 sheets to it using left outer joins. So to do that, let's head back to the Visual Basic editor, and I'm just going to uncomment my first query. And then we want to put this entire select statement as the first thing in the from clause of the main query. Now, because I need this to return a set of results that we can join to, we'll need to convert this into a subquery and give it an alias so that we can join to it. So let's just start by copying and pasting these 2 lines, and I'll plonk those in just after the from clause. And then I'm going to need another continuation character at the end of that line. Then, to convert this into a subquery, we're going to need to wrap the entire select and union select in a set of round brackets. We can then give that an alias. We can say as G. And then that basically, although that returns a separate set of results as we've seen, you can run that as an independent separate query, it can also be nested inside another query to produce a set of results that we can then join to. So we need to join our genres 2010 sheet to that one first of all, and we need to do that with a left join because we always want to return all of the genres from the table on the left. So that's the master list of genres. So let's say left join genres 2010 as G10, and then we'll need to say something like on G.genre equals G10.genre. We can then just adjust the join for the 2011 sheet, and we'll make that a left join as well. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll join to the original master list of genres G.genre equals G11.genre. I want to make sure that the genre name that I display comes from the master list, so the table that we've labelled just as G. So I'm going to change that alias there to G. And then one final thing we'll need to do, and you probably know this already if you've watched the previous videos on joins, we've currently got 3 tables involved in our joins at this point, so 1, 2 and 3. When you're joining more than 2 tables, you need to wrap up in some round brackets the pairs of things you're joining together. So it requires an extra open round bracket at the beginning of the from clause and then a closed round bracket just after the first join. Okay, so having done that, let's just get rid of our separate query that we wrote. We shan't need that anymore. And then if we head back to the menu sheet and run that query one more time, we will get the full combination of results. So all 15 genres from the combination of 2010 and 2011, you can fairly easily spot where the nulls appear, which things are unique to each of the different sheets. Just before we start bringing in any additional worksheets, it may be worthwhile looking at how we could replace the nulls with actual values such as zeros. So to do that, let's head back to the Visual Basic editor, and in front of each of the columns where we're selecting from the yearly worksheets, we can wrap an if function around these to check if the value of that column is null. And if so, we can place a 0 in its place. Otherwise, we can just return the results of that column. So of course, this is a technique we have used in previous videos, so just a little bit of a recap here. And then I can do exactly the same thing for the average runtime. I probably should have picked fewer columns, but anyway, we'll do a bit of copying and pasting, of course, again in a moment, just to save a bit of time. And then we can copy and paste that column as well. Okay. Now that we've done that, it's probably worthwhile just copying and pasting those 2 expressions and then overwriting the ones on the subsequent 2 lines, and then just updating the table names to G11, and then the one additional alias that we changed there as well can go to 2011 as well. Okay, so having done that, it's a fairly basic pattern. Test it. If it is null, then return a 0, otherwise return it. If we then head back to the menu sheet and run that query again, I think the results are a little bit neater and tidier, seeing the zeros rather than the nulls. From this point on, adding in more worksheets is fairly straightforward if a little repetitive. Let's bring in the 2012 worksheet, making sure we include any additional genres which haven't yet appeared from the 2010 and 2011 sheets. If we head back to the Visual Basic Editor, I'm going to do a whole lot of copying and pasting here. So I'm going to start in my union query, the one that generates the master list of genres. I'm going to copy and paste this section of code, paste it in at just the very end of our union select, just before the closed round brackets, and then just update the table name or the worksheet name to genres 2012. What I can then do is do some more copying and pasting. So let's copy and paste the left join. So the next thing to do is join on the 2012 sheet to that list of results. So I can copy and paste that part. And then I'm going to go for the 2012 sheet and update the alias in both places. Now don't forget, as I frequently do, that because we've added another join to our from clause, we need to wrap the previous joins in a set of round brackets just to help the query work out which set of joins to perform first. Then a little bit more copying and pasting. We're going to copy and paste the two if statements that generate these columns to the end of the select list, and then we can update the column names again, or the table names, or the table aliases I should say, to G12. Try that again, and then the aliases will update to 2012 as well. Okay, so not too difficult. We've just copied and pasted and reused a whole bunch of code we've already used. And if we head back to the menu sheet and run that query again, we'll see an even longer list of genres, this time with some things that are unique to the 2012 year. If you have lots of worksheets to join together in this way, one thing you will need to be careful of is running out of continuation characters. You may already know that there's a limit of 25 continuations in a single VBA statement. So one thing that could help is to split this into two separate VBA statements by putting the select list together and then concatenating the from clause afterwards. So let's split the select list from the from clause. I'm going to give myself a couple of extra lines, and then I'm going to say SQL query equals SQL query, and then concatenate the from clause to what's already in that variable. That makes it a bit easier now to add in even more tables. So let's be ambitious here. Let's add in a couple of extra sheets from the movies workbook. I'm going to copy and paste in my union query the 2011 and 2012 sheets. So I'm going to copy that part and then paste that in, and then update that to 2013 and 2014. And then while we're here, why not paste it in again and update these two 15 and 16. Okay, now we can include the joins to the remaining worksheets as well, the 13, 14, 15 and 16. So once again, let's see what's the easiest thing to do here. I think here we'll copy and paste the 3 existing left joins and then paste those in at the end. So we've got 12, 13, 14 and 15, and then we'll just need one additional one. So let's just copy and paste that one by itself for 2016. And of course I'll need to update these here as well for the table names. So let's go 13, 14, 15 and 16. Now we've also got to make sure we've closed the correct set of round brackets as well. So previously we had in the correct number of open round brackets for the 2010, 2011 and 2012 sheets. So we will have included an extra closed round bracket for 2012, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll need to make sure we include an extra 4 open round brackets at the very beginning. Okay, so we should have the open and close round brackets for the entire union query, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 open round brackets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 close round brackets. Okay, then we've got a bunch of extra columns to select as well. So let's copy that entire section of 6 if statements, paste those in at the end, and then we've got a lot of updating to do here. So after the 12 we'll go for 13 and 13, 14 and 14 and 15 and 15. And that tells me I just need to include one additional set of the last two columns. So let's just copy and paste those while we're here. And then 16 and 16. Okay, we've got to update all of the other references to those. I've just realised I've missed those out as well in the aliases in the left joins. So in fact, let's go back down there and do that part first. So I've got 13 and 14, 15 and 16. There's probably a much easier way to do this. Feel free to skip ahead to the point at which I've finally finished updating all of these. The next chapter of the video would be a good place, I think. So I'm going to go for 13, 13, 13 and 13. And then 11 becomes 14 on these lines. And then 12 becomes 15 on these lines. And I think we're nearly there. Hopefully you're not too bored. I should have put this bit on fast forward. And then the 2016 sheet just there. Okay. I think I'll give myself a prize if I get this absolutely 100% correct first time. Let's head back to the menu sheet, click that Run Query button, and there we go. The full set of results with all of the genres from all of those worksheets in a single continuous list with additional columns for each of the yearly sheets. Now that we've created our full set of results, we could expand on our select statement by including things like a where clause to filter out some of the results, or an order by clause to change the sort order of the results. Let's just do a couple of things with the where clause. Let's, for example, try to show a list of all the genres which don't appear in the year 2010. So to do that, we can check where the genre name for the 2010 worksheet is null. So let's head back to the Visual Basic Editor and scroll down to the end of our extremely long query at this point. And then I think I'm just going to copy and paste the SQL query equals SQL query and continuation character. Paste that in at the end. And then we can add a where clause. And let's put this on the next line as well. So let's have another continuation character. And then I'm going to say where g10.genre is null. So if that genre name doesn't appear in the year 2010, then the genre column will have null. So having done that, we could head back to the menu sheet and run that query again, and we'll end up with a list of all the genres that don't appear in the year 2010, but may appear in other years in the database. We can make those criteria even more specific. So for example, we could find genres which don't appear in the years 2010, 11 or 12. So let's head back to the Visual Basic Editor, and then we can add another continuation character to the end. And I think just a bit of a copy and a paste again. We've used that technique fairly well so far. So we've got 3 conditions to apply this time. So I want to check that the 2010 genre is null, and the 2011 genre is null, and the 2012 genre is null as well. So having done that, we could head back to the menu sheet and run that query again. So those are the 5 genres which don't appear in any of those 3 years. We could also spin that a little bit. Let's say we wanted to find all the genres that don't appear in 2010 or 2011, but which do appear in 2012. So we could head back to the Visual Basic Editor and then just modify that final select statement, sorry, that final where clause, that final condition to say is not null. And then heading back to the menu sheet, running that query one more time. Those are the 2 genres which appear in 2012, but not 2011 or 2010. So there we go. There's one technique you can use to merge multiple worksheets side by side using a combination of unions and joins. Hope you found that one useful. Thanks very much for watching as always, and we'll see you next time.